Modern-day U.S. education systems are in need of a change. A study conducted at Yale shows us that our schools affect common students in a negative manner. You can look at a variety of students. Most of them will say that they are bored, stressed, or don't understand the topics at hand. On top of this, some of the subjects that are taught in school do not gain or maintain the attention of students. So what can be done about this? Well, I propose that we should reform our systems to help push the future generations. But is it even possible to do so? Finn and Steiner wrote in an article about this subject. And as a matter of fact, the United States has tried to do so before. Their strategies have been used so far, but problems still lie within the system. So I have thought of a solution for the issue. First, we need to look at where it needs to be changed. On the topic of student interest and comprehension of different subjects, we can see how it is failing students. The movement, whatever it takes, states that, quote, they are unable to grasp foundational concepts and are instead focused on memorization and regurgitation techniques, end quote. On top of that, teens at school are considered to be mostly unhappy. A survey conducted by researchers at Yale found that a majority of students report negative feelings towards school and that they are most happy once they leave school. One contributing problem to this cause is the fact that students are essentially governed by teachers and school faculty when most just want to go into an independent field of study. All in all, multiple forms of research show us that students are struggling in school. Now, before we go on to talk about ways we can change our school, we must first look at what they do correctly. In my opinion, I think schools do a great job at introducing subjects to students. It is no secret that we are all here in some way, that we all are different in some way, and that we all have different interests. But sometimes we might be a little afraid to step out of our comfort zone and try something new. Schools are the perfect place to experiment with these different subjects so that students can find their own interest in what they excel at. In my experience, English, science, history, and physical education have introduced me to things I love to do. In English, I recently discovered that I'm really good at writing informative and argumentative papers. In science, I figured out how interesting the human body really is. I built a better understanding of my body, and which translates well into everyday subjects, such as weightlifting. And as a matter of fact, I wouldn't be lifting if it weren't for physical education. In history, you get to learn about a variety of different subjects which inspire me to learn about the world. These subjects are enhanced by the ones that teach them. Yoku Terada states that a study conducted by the University of Chicago found that, quote, 9th grade teachers who improved their students' non-cognitive skills, which include motivation and the ability to adapt to new situations as well as self-regulation, had important impacts on those students, end quote. This goes to show us that teachers can have a positive impact on students, and that doing so increases their motivation. Teachers are an invaluable part of school, and we will always need them in person. With all this in mind, I think it's safe to say that the entirety of the U.S. education system should not be reformed, and that some aspects need to be kept. Now let's take a look at how we can actually reform the school system. Homing in on the independent nature of teens and our desire for an unrestrained life, I think schools should introduce subjects to students to teach our current curriculum up until the 8th grade. This will give students the opportunity to find something that they are interested in, and so that they can learn the basics of each subject. Students should also have to learn about basic things after high school, such as writing a resume, completing taxes, creating a budget, etc. After that, students should be able to go on their own and study subjects that interest them. For example, if a kid really likes to weld, then they should go to a classroom that teaches them to weld and how they can build a career off that and gain opportunities to go work for someone. If that kid isn't interested in writing papers or writing an essay in English, or they aren't really good at writing papers, then why should they have to? Now, I'm not saying that kids don't need to know how to write, but some information is only important to a specific career. A perfect example of students working independently into their passion already exists and is now an active school as of now. The Agora School in the Netherlands has many different subjects that that have many different subjects that students can partake in, much like a university. This would make sure that the students are going into a job they want to go into instead of working a dead-end 9-to-5 that they despise. On top of this, there are no year groups from ages 12 to 18. This will allow students the chance to find more leadership opportunities as well as mentorship. Combine this with our current firms of teachers, it may prove to be an excellent reformation. Finally, we need to talk about putting it into play. Now, I'm not saying that this will definitely work and that it will improve our education. It might not even be the right move for a select learning style that some students possess. But why should we let this stop us? I believe that those students can still strive in these new schools, and if there are still doubts, then select certain schools or build some from the ground up with this learning concept in mind. It won't be perfect, but we need to be able to experiment with it and fail. A major part in finding success is the action of failing, and it pushes us to go further. So how should we reform our schools? I believe that strategies I have listed would help to some degree. First, the U.S. needs to look at where they are failing in the education system. Then they need to look at what works in the system, keep it, then they need to combine it with student independence with the factors that work so that students can achieve the highest learning potential. Finally, we need to be able to experiment with this new system of education and be willing to fail. I believe that this would increase a majority of student education as well as student happiness. Although this strategy won't work with everyone, it will further our understanding of what works and what doesn't work. This is what will ultimately push us forward into having a better education. Thank you for your time.